They are given by one shepherd. My son, beware of anything beyond these. Of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment, with every secret thing, whether good or evil. Well, we've been working through this book. We began in late January, early February, and we have walked with King Solomon through his journey of darkness. That Solomon entered a period in his life, probably brought on by the foreign wives that he had married who led him into idol worship. And he began to use the wisdom God had given him, not to glorify and honor God and to seek out God's perspective, but to see what he could discover on his own. And what he discovered was not pleasant. Everywhere he turned, no matter what he tried to do, all he could see is that in the end lies death. How the righteous and the wicked, the fool and the wise, all meet the same end, and that's death. And that after our death, there is no remembrance of us. And everything we have built in this life will inevitably come crumbling and end in nothing. And therefore, there's nothing better to do but to eat and to drink and to be merry, because we are going to die. He tested philosophy. He tested pleasure. He looked at aging and youth. He looked at riches and poverty. He looked at politics and righteousness and justice and injustice. And every turn he took in trying to find, how do things work together? How can I understand this world? How can I understand myself and my place in it? And every single turn he took led him into a brick wall. Death, meaninglessness, emptiness. But today, finally, we see Solomon bringing his final reflections on his journey into darkness, where his journey is no longer clouded and obscured. But towards the end of his life, Solomon came out of this darkness, and he wrote Ecclesiastes in order to show us there is only one way out of the meaninglessness and darkness that our own reason, our own wisdom, our own search for joy and meaning will lead to. And you see the different tone here in verses 9 through 14, where he points us to a God who's actually there. Not the God we saw earlier, the God who just controls everything, but he's distant and far from us and really has nothing to do with us in a relational way. Here in verses 9 through 14, we see that no, he's learned that God is near, that God is concerned with us, and that what he thinks and what he says matters. I mean, you look at what you have here, and as we begin to go through the text, you see the differences from verses 9 through 14 from the rest of the book. And so if we could have the first slide up here, and we will see, the first thing we see in this passage is that the Word of God, or is that we have an evaluation of the preacher. And by the preacher, we mean the time of Solomon's darkness. And what we see here are a couple of things. We see that besides being wise, the preacher also taught the people knowledge.